Hi everyone, it's Dawn. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Dawn and I'm a 54-year-old woman here in the mature beauty community, and I invite you to hit the subscribe button and stick around. So I had a video request. I love getting video requests because it gives me ideas. Sometimes I have a hard time coming up with ideas. So I love when someone asks me for a certain type of video, and my beautiful subscriber friend Diane asked me if I could point her to one of my videos where I show how I do my eyeshadow on a regular basis, but zoom in so she could see very clearly the steps. And I know I've done that in a lot of videos, but I thought that I would just use this opportunity to film a video on how I apply 4 or 5 different shades of eyeshadow to my really deep set and slightly hooded eyes, and I'll zoom in and bring you in really closely and talk you through the steps, and I'll show you the brushes I use, and I'll show you the just everything that I do. And I usually look for something in my eyeshadow palettes. Most of the eyeshadow palettes that I really love, they're palettes that include a really light bright shade like this. It can be a matte as long as it's not too flat, but I do like a slight shimmer like this. And I like when they have a dark shade, either black or very dark brown. This one's a little bit light, but it shows up really well on me because I'm so fair, and it actually works really well. But on some of you, you might need something a little bit darker or a black. And if I don't have a palette that has a good shade for that, for what I like to use this for, I'll use MAC Carbon. And I do have MAC Carbon in singles, and this one's one of the magnetic ones for my the palette I created myself. And I really like this shade for using as an eyeliner. It looks really dark, but it's actually like a really kind of charcoaly black. So it is just very flattering. It's not like a stark black. And so I love having that shade on hand for when I'm using a palette that doesn't include a dark shade like that. And the other thing I look for is a really light shade like this one here. And I like to use that like on the inner corner or for kind of like dabbing as a spotlight onto my mobile lid. So I always like to have a shade like that that has a little bit of a shimmer to it, and a really good one that I always have on hand if I don't have one in a palette. This shade is in the Modern Renaissance palette from Anastasia, and this is an Anastasia eyeshadow palette. Eyeshadow color, I meant to say, and it is in the shade Vermeer, and I showed you what it looked like. So if I have a palette that isn't what I consider a complete palette, where it has a light shade like that and a really dark shade, then I always have these on hand, and I keep them in little palettes that I've made for myself. If you're ever interested in seeing my Z palettes that I've made with like my favorite kind of shades of eyeshadow, I'd be happy to share that with you. But anyways, I wanted to do what I typically do on my eyes, and I've been doing my own eyeshadow since I was a teenager, ever since I was old enough to use eyeshadow. And so I've watched lots of makeup artists, I've attended some classes at MAC, and I've just always practiced on my own eyes. So I think for my own eyes, I'm an expert, but when I apply eyeshadow to other people's eyes, I don't have any confidence. So I'm gonna show you what I do. And I'm gonna show you just my typical routine. I like to use 4 or maybe 5 shades. So I do have a lot of larger eyeshadow palettes, but I can also really do a complete eye look using like the Milani Quince. I think there's 5 shades in those, or like the Natasha Denona Quince, or even like a palette that is a quad, like from Revlon, or some of those palettes that just have 4 shades, Charlotte Tilbury. I can do a full look using those palettes as well, but I like to have palettes that have a lot of different shades. And the way I can get the most out of my palettes is just basically blending shades together and creating other shades. So that's something you can do if you don't have an exact shade that you need. You can try to create it by blending together some other colors. I also think that that's a great thing to do if you find that you have a color that you're not quite sure what to do with. Sometimes blending it with another shade makes it more wearable, and you'll use it. And another reason it's really good to mix shades and create your own shades sometimes is so that this doesn't happen. This is my Tartelette in Bloom palette. And as you can see, I'm missing several shades, and they're the shades that I used all the time, and I used them up, and now I have all these other shades sitting around, and they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful shades. A lot of neutrally shades. So I'm trying to use these shades in different ways so that I don't waste this palette. But I have some favorite eyeshadow palettes that I use in the fall time. Two that I use every fall, and these are both new purchases because I've used them many times and I've repurchased them. This one is the Modern Renaissance palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this recently in the past few months went on sale for $21, and so when it did, I decided to strike while the iron was hot and I purchased it again. And you can see I think you can see Vermeer, the color I showed you, that really light color. I'm about to hit pan again in the middle of it. And some of these other shades. This is just beautiful. This is the palette that I wanted to use in today's video because I love this palette in the fall time. But I'm going to do a fall makeup look coming up, and I thought I might use this palette for that. Or I'll use this palette, and this is another favorite that I've purchased several times, and it's my daughter Nadia's favorite palette too. And it's the Tartelette Toasted, and these are beautiful fall shades. Look how pretty this is. It's just a beautiful palette, and I don't know what I'll do if Tarte discontinues this, because I think I've purchased this palette 3 times. And so this one's not a new one. I've been using this one a little bit, but I use it more in the fall than I do in the summer. And it's kind of funny because when Diane asked me if I could film this video showing how I apply my eyeshadow close up so she could see step by step, she said because I have hooded eyes. And I really don't have hooded eyes. I have very deep set eyes. Like if you look at my eyes, I don't have like loose skin yet that kind of sits on my lash line, which is hooded eyes. But I guess I have naturally hooded eyes where my eyes are so deep set that when I wear eyeshadow and then I look straight at you, it folds back. And so what I've done over the years is look at celebrities and watch how they apply their eyeshadow, or look at different photos of them to kind of get an idea of how they apply their eyeshadow. And I look at celebrities who have the same eye shape that I have, and I'll put some photos up. And it's funny because I'm German and Irish, and most of these celebrities are also Northern European or Eastern European, and they have the same like shape eyes, which makes sense. And so one is Mila Jovovich, and she's actually Russian or Ukrainian. And I'll put a photo of her here, and you'll see that her eyes are fairly similar to mine. And then another one is Claudia Schiffer, and she was a model in the 80s. She's German, and her eyes are very much like my eye shape, I think. And then somebody else that comes to mind is an actress that was in the series Succession. She played Shiv Roy, and she has really, really deep set eyes. So they're like mine, but extreme. Like, I don't even know how she ever wears eye makeup, but she's very pretty anyways, even though she has like no eyelids or no eyelid space. So I do employ some strategies so that you can see my eyes. They're very deep set. And like I said, when you look at a picture of me, when you look straight on, it's really hard to see I'm wearing any eyeshadow at all. If you look at my Instagram, you can see, like, it looks like I'm just wearing mascara, but I'm actually probably wearing 5 different eyeshadow shades and a cut crease and everything I can think of to make my eyes pop. So it's just, eyeshadow could be a little bit wasted on me, I guess, but I love it because it's fun and it's creative, and I just really enjoy it. So I'm going to show you how I typically apply my eyeshadow, and I'll bring you in really close, and I hope it helps some of you who have really deep set or hooded eyes. And I'm just going to jump in and get started. I already primed my eyelids, which is really important. If you ever skip applying primer to your eyelids, you might notice that your eyeshadow fades away during the day or it creases. I have oily eyelids, and mine just kind of gets into the creases and bunches up, and it never looks as good as it does when I use a primer. So I always use a primer, and I'm going to use all Real Techniques brushes for this video just to keep everything easy. And I'm also going to use my Tartelette Juicy palette. I really like this palette a lot. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick up this shade right here, which is a shimmer, and this shade right here, which is also a shimmer. And one is pinkier than the other. This one's sort of like a rose gold sparkle, and this one's like more of a champagne. And I like to mix them together because I think they're really, really pretty when they're mixed together. And I mix them together on the same brush. And this is the shade that I'm gonna put down on my inner corner. And it's okay if you get it like right on your skin here in the corner, because I like to add a little sparkle or pop in that little right here anyways. So it's really pretty. And I'm gonna put this down all over my mobile lid, up like to my crease, but not necessarily through my crease. And if you get the brush wet, it also packs a little more of a punch. But I'm not gonna do that today. I'm just gonna keep it pretty simple. Misspoke, I am going to use one Luxie brush, and I like this brush for right into my crease because I like how densely packed the fibers are, but it's also still like a shader brush and it's easy to blend out the color. I'm gonna take this shade right here, which is a matte, and it's just like a pink matte, and I'm gonna mix it with this color, which is kind of like a taupey shade, but it's really, really light. And I like to use that shade with the pink shade because it lightens the pink shade up a bit. So I don't really mix these on the same brush, but I kind of layer them. So the first thing I'm gonna do is pick up the pink, and I'm gonna apply this, like just using a circular motion and buffing it into place, like in my crease, like this. And I'm going all the way in. So I'm going from the tail of my brow to the tip of my brow and applying this color all over. I really like mixing eyeshadows together. I feel like it's a great way to get the most use out of your eyeshadow palettes sometimes. You know, when you're using an eyeshadow palette and you realize that you're skipping one color all the time, sometimes mixing it with a second shade just makes a really pretty shade that makes both of the shades usable. I hope that makes sense. So I do like to mix, and now I'm just kind of wiping this off, and I wanted to show you something. I know you've probably seen this before, but I cannot live without this stuff, and I never talk about it, but I use it in just about every video. It's the Cinema Secrets brush cleaner, and if you squirt a little bit of this on your brush and just take a tissue and wipe it off, it will remove all the color. And it's a great way to clean your brush in between eyeshadow colors or in between brush washings. Okay, now I'm gonna pick up that lighter taupier shade, and I'm gonna just apply it basically right over the pinky shade because it's gonna mute it down and make it not so bright. Because the pink is such a pretty color and it's a really wearable color, but I only like to use that color pink by itself when I'm using it like as a pink smoky eye, like in the outer corner, like in the springtime when I'm really looking for a spring or summer eyeshadow look. So I'm just muting that down with that taupey shade and blending it out. And now I'm going like even over my crease and taking it up like almost to my brow. The only place I don't have eyeshadow now is like in the arch of my brow. Now I'm gonna take this shade right here, and it's a shimmer as well. And it looks like this. It's just like this beautiful bronzy shade. And I love this shade for a one eyeshadow makeup look. If I'm ever just using like one eyeshadow, it's such a pretty shade for that. And I'm going to be taking this Real Techniques brush that is kind of short and dense. It's not quite a smudger brush. They do make a smudger brush that it looks almost basically exactly like this, but it's shorter. The fibers are shorter. This one's a little bit longer. So I think this one is really great for picking up color and using it in the outer V. And I do make a shortcut for this, but for this video, I'm not gonna do the shortcut. And basically, if you've seen any of my eyeshadow videos recently where I'm doing a get ready with me, you'll see that rather than make a V, I take a brush like this one or slightly taller, and I just buff the shade into the outer corner, and it still creates a really beautiful smoky effect. But makeup artists, whenever they do this, at least the makeup artists that I watch, they place the color in like an outer V, and that is really nice. It's a nice way to use as a guide to get your eyeshadow in place. I'm not going to blend it just yet. And I really do like to do this because if I have my eyeshadow out here toward the tail of my brow, you can see it when my eyes are open. It could be because of my deep set eyes. That's why I like to kind of extend it out and have like a smoky effect. And this is just a really pretty daytime makeup look. You can make it as bold as you want, but these colors just really lend themselves to a really beautiful daytime makeup look. Oh, I do have a smudger brush here. So here's the difference. This is the one that I just used for the outer corner, and this is a smudger brush. And you can see it's shorter and just smaller in general. And I'm gonna pick up that same kind of bronzy shade that I just used, and I'm gonna smudge a little beneath my lower lash line. And some people like to do this and some people don't like to do this. I do have to do a little bit of cleanup when I'm done, but I really do like to kind of carry my eyeshadow underneath as well, and it just makes everything a little more cohesive. Now I have a fine detail brush, also from Real Techniques. This one's orange. It's just from a different kit. They have purple handles, or they have like these orangey handles, and this is just from a different kit of brushes. And I'm gonna take the deepest shade here, which is a matte, and it's just this really pretty brown. And I'm going to pick that up on my fine detail brush. And this is something I always like to do, is make a cut crease. So I just basically use a very small brush like this one and drag a deep shade that goes with the rest of the colors I've used into the crease, because even though when I look straight at you, you won't see it, but when I look down, it has a really pretty effect, and it just takes your whole look up a notch, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna place this here. You have to be very careful with these dark shades on the inner corner. They can make your eyes look a little more closed in if you get too much there. So that's why I always like to use a really bright shade on the inner corner. I'm gonna use the same brush that I used before, not the smudger brush, but the one that's a little bit longer. And I'm gonna use this to just go in a rounded motion and just blend this so it's not such a straight, harsh line, like this. Now I have a clean brush that doesn't have anything on it, and I'm just going to blend the outer corner here and kind of soften everything up. And I'm going to take that same brush and just dip it into the very light champagne sparkly shade that I have all over my mobile lid, mixed with the pink. And I'm going to apply this into the arch of my brow, just as like a little spotlight there. And now I'm just going to use some concealer. This is from Dior Forever. I really like this concealer a lot. I purchased this like a year ago with the Dior foundation, and I need to use it up. I kind of moved on to other foundations and I stopped using this, but it's probably one of the more expensive foundations and concealers that I own, and I don't want to go to waste, so I'm trying to use it up. And I didn't like it in the summer months. That's why I kind of forgot about it, because when I first purchased it, it was in the summer, and I just didn't like the way it looked on my skin in the summertime, but I like it more in the winter, so I thought it'd be a great time to just revisit it. So I'll let you know what my thoughts are after using it in the winter. I think I might like it better. Oh, and I'm just using a Real Techniques concealer brush, also from like that orange or peachy handle collection. And I'm just cleaning up. Okay, I'm just gonna add a little eyeliner, and I really love these from Stila. They're waterproof, so when you apply them, they'll stay put all day. They're the retractable kind. I always end up picking these up whenever Ulta has a sale, like the 21 Days of Beauty, they're often included. But honestly, they're so good. I would pay for the full price if I needed them between sales or if I didn't have a coupon. This is in the shade Demure, which is kind of like a really pretty brown shade. And I'm just gonna tightline. I just like to fill in here because it makes my mascara look better. Like you can't see any skin. It helps kind of fill in the gaps. So I'm just gonna go put on my favorite drugstore mascara, the Sky High from Maybelline. I'm gonna use the primer and I'm gonna use a couple coats of the mascara, and I'll be right back. So this is the finished look. I just applied the mascara, and I did not apply any eyeshadow to my upper lash line. And I usually do that. I use a liquid liner. So any of my other videos where I'm doing my eye makeup, you'll most likely see me do that if you'd like to check those out. But I wanted the eyeshadow to speak for itself and just do a nice eyeshadow look using the eyeshadow and not really put any eyeliner on top of it at all. So I'm gonna bring you in close. And this is how I do my eye makeup. I use 4 or 5 different shades, and the process usually goes really quickly because I do have those little shortcuts that I take where I don't really carve out the outer V, rather I just pack some on and then really spend a lot of time blending. But I do find that it looks a little better when I do take the time to use a detail brush and get everything really well in place like I did today. The other thing that I like to do that I didn't do today, but I think I'll add it so that I can show you one more step using the eyeshadow. And I usually use MAC Carbon for this, but since this palette has a dark brown shade here, I'm gonna use this brush right here from Real Techniques. It's an angled brush. And I'm going to just put a little bit of that eyeshadow on the edge of the brush, like so. And I will create a little wing. If you just place the brush like on the outer corner of your eye, usually like where your very last bottom lash is, and just kind of pack that on there. Matte Carbon is really nice for this because it's a smoky black that is like a little bit more, it has a little more gray in it, so it's not so stark black, like it's not shocking or anything like that. So I really like that, but I like this because it is a brown and it has basically the same effect. And then I take whatever's left on the brush and I just drag it along the lower lash line. So this is like a reverse cat eye effect. And outer corner, and then drag. And that's how that looks. And I only do that when I don't use eyeliner on the top. I find that if I use a liquid eyeliner on the top or put too much of like a dark smoky shade up there, it just really closes in my eyes and makes them look smaller. But by applying it just to the bottom, it kind of makes my eyeballs look, my eyelids more open and awake, in my opinion. This is the final look with the eyeliner. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that some of my tips will help you if you also have very deep set eyes or hooded eyes. Even if you don't, I think that some of these tips just look good on everyone. The brightening shade on the inner corner, smoking it out in the outer corner. You know, it's like what a lot of makeup artists do when they show us how to do our eye makeup, and that's how I learned. So I hope that you benefit from this. If you did, even if you didn't, please hit like if you enjoyed this video or found it entertaining, and leave me a comment down below in the comment section. I love knowing who's watching. Have a blessed and beautiful day. I'll see you next time.